Hi, Cherish. Welcome to the studio. Today we're going to be working on a color study, and the color study itself is already done. So I'm basically walking you through the steps that I've taken to get some things done, and also to learn some things. I think that it'll be really interesting to walk back through this with you. So, without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, so you can see that we're kind of in the middle of the painting phase of this color study. So far, I've already kind of defined the background. I've put in the hair. I've put in a little bit of paint on the ears. And really, honestly, it's just like a block in. It's not it's not anything really detailed. I am getting a little bit more detailed when it gets to the actual scarf itself, because that's at least what I've learned from this is that's the hero part of this painting. The hero is going to be the scarf, the skin and the hair, and everything is in support of making the scarf look really good. The other thing that I think is going to happen is that I'm going to maybe change the earrings out or enhance the earrings so that they're a little more interesting. But that little area of the hair, scarf, ears, that little section, that's the section that's going to make the painting sing. There's another part that I have to think through, and that is the stripes on the shirt. I really like the stripes on the shirt, but I think I'm painting the shirt by itself first, without stripes, so that I can see how that behaves. So what are we doing? I think that's the main question that we want to answer here. So why am I doing color study? So the color study is really I just want to kind of trip over some of the landmines of the painting right now, as opposed to being into the painting and then figuring out that I need to change something. So the main thing that I'm doing, like in this video, is mapping through the planes of the scarf, because when I was working on another painting and I was painting actually another scarf, I literally couldn't figure out where I was or what I was doing. So it was very hard to understand what was a fold, what was a dip, what was a wrinkle, all those kind of things that go into understanding how the color is going to react and how the color is going to get placed within that scope of the scarf or whatever I'm painting. I think the other thing is I'm not looking for mistakes. Like there's no mistake, right? The mistake is not doing the color study, but I'm not looking for mistakes. I'm looking to see what kind of choices actually work better for this particular portrait that I'm working on. It's funny to call it a portrait because there's no face, but it is a portrait. It is a person. It is a portrait. It is a figurative painting, and I kind of love it. I was actually inspired a little bit by Richter. I was also inspired. I was looking at a lot of Frida Kahlo, and I was looking at conversely looking at a lot of Celmins and thinking through how they kind of like approach these problems in the paintings and how they kind of guide a viewer to actually get their point across. And it's interesting to see how many interpretations there are of different paintings and different structures. So it's fun. This part is the fun part for me because I can do anything and it's not necessarily a mistake. The other thing that's really important to me is that I'm doing this kind of like, it's kind of like learning the choreography. This is something I say to myself and I say all the time. It's kind of like learning choreography. If I understand that, like that little highlight on her shoulder was actually one of the harder things to paint because it was kind of like a suggestion of a highlight. And how do I want that to behave in this painting? And I had at first painted it in exactly the shape that it was in the reference image, and it just didn't work. It really it kind of sat there and it was just like this big blob of paint that just kind of drew your eye away from the hero. And what I learned was I can't paint it exactly like it is in the reference. I actually have to change it. I actually have to adjust it so that there is a shadow, or there's a shadow and there's a bright spot, but it's not overwhelming the image. It's not like I'm not making a copy of the photograph. And I think that's important to note here. It is the reference is a reference, and I'm using it as a way to go like, hey, there's a shirt here and it has stripes. But in the end, the shirt could be pink with stripes and I'd be perfectly happy with it. Or the hair could be like bright blue, and I could also be perfectly happy with it. But what I'm looking for from the reference image itself is texture. I'm looking for interesting things that I think will work in the painting. Like the tag is, right there on the bottom, is it's actually super important to me because the tag actually says 3X on it. And that is my shirt that I was letting my sister wear. And at the time I was a 3X. And it's like the one thing that in the painting that communicates something to you about this person. And yet I'm like, I've literally like just kind of bloop. I just want you to know it's there. I don't want it to be the thing that you're looking at automatically or automagically. I don't want it to be the first thing that you see when you look at this painting. I want it to be like the third thing that you notice. So I really want to paint the heck out of that scarf. And I want that scarf to own the picture frame. I want that moment, that little, like, I should do a little box, that little moment right there with the scarf and the ears and the ponytail puff. I want that part to own your eye. And then as you're kind of drawn down by the stripes in the shirt, for you to find that 3X. And I think that is part of the magic of a color study, because I'm trying to guide you. I'm trying to tell you a story. And I am not trying to say, well, here's a copy of a photo that I took in my backyard with my sister. It's far more interesting than that. So I haven't talked about really any like actual technical painting stuff. So let's talk about that a little bit. So on the painting itself, I think what I'm going through right now is mapping that scarf. So I did talk about this a little bit, where I got lost on another painting where I had a scarf, and it was a painting of a dog, and I had a scarf, and the painting, basically the reference image was not a good reference image, and so everything on that painting, or every part of that scarf, is kind of imagined. And I didn't want to do that to myself again. So I really wanted to investigate the actual reference that I'm using, because I am using it for structure. I do want you to understand that this is a scarf. In real life, it's a napkin. In real life, it's actually a napkin that I tied around my sister, to make it into a scarf. So the composition is settled. The real question is the palette. The palette, I didn't know when I was painting the painting that the palette would be so cool. And I think if you look at this, the background in the reference, because you can see the reference on the left, the background is a very bright day. It's in our backyard, and there's greenery kind of in front of my sister, and then this wall that's behind the greenery. And this was when we had just put in we have like the privacy hedges or whatever, so you could really see the wall, which I kind of like. And it actually is coming through in the final painting, where you can kind of see, not a wall, but just that color, that gray color. And because of the way that separates between the foreground and the subject and the background, I feel like she is very warm, like her skin is very, very warm. Then also the background is going to be very cool, so that she stands apart, so that the scarf itself, the shirt, her skin, her ears, whatever you want to call them, that it's separated from the background. And I think that is an important distinction here, because compositionally it is, this color study is a lot smaller. It's not even the same like dimensions. The final is a square. This is a rectangle. So compositionally, there's more room in there for her to breathe, for her to have like hedges and all that kind of fun stuff. But then the color has to remain in this kind of muted background, cool color, because I'm not trying to get you to be like, oh, that's a really cool, that's a really cool landscape. It's just part of the painting. So background, muted color, definitely green, cool in nature, kind of fuzzy blurry. Foreground, the painting of the scarf is going to get it's probably going to be the tightest thing that's painted on this. And I say that after having painted already the underpainting for the body. So the body has a grisaille, so the body has been underpainted, and it is super tight, but it's done that way in the final, because it's going to lend me the opportunity to be a little bit more free with the brush strokes. In hindsight, now that I am on to the bigger painting, I am actually learning so much. So number one, I will probably work harder on the background in the color study, and I'll probably actually switch to doing it in gouache or watercolor. I really just like to paint really thick watercolor, so basically it's just gouache. But I need to work more through the process of doing the background a little bit more. The thing I'm learning specifically from that process, or painting the background right now, is how how much different the brush strokes needed to be for the background. I actually had to switch my brushes. I had to switch my style a little bit to just go in and make I chose to go in with the greenery. So I chose to go in and make it a lot looser. And that is one of those things that had I done a little bit of it in the background, even just blocked it in, I think that would have helped me to get over the hurdle that I'm going through right now. I think the other thing that I'm learning, that I can kind of give you in hindsight, like actually working on the main painting now, is the earrings. When I was painting this at first, I didn't realize that she was wearing earrings because they literally are, they tonally are almost the same color as the background. So I think I'm going to do something fun with the earrings. I haven't figured out what that is yet. I thought I had an idea of what I was going to do with them, but I know that something's going to happen with them. It might be the same shape but a different color, or it might be a wholly different earring. So we'll see how that goes. I think the last thing is I'm definitely going to change the color of the shirt. When I finished this color study, I made it the same color as it is in the reference, but I think as I'm going and as I'm kind of getting more into, coming up with a final image, I think that it is, and it's not a ew, I don't like this shirt kind of a thing. It's more like a, how do you guide someone through a painting visually and compose that structure in there so that you can actually get them to look at the things you want them to look at. And having a patterned shirt that is a different color than the patterned handkerchief that is also a different color than the shirt, it's too much difference to kind of let the field kind of play. So I'm going to change the color of the shirt. It'll probably match more closely to the color of the scarf. I haven't painted it yet, so I don't know. But I have done a few like digital mock-ups of it because that's a good quick way to kind of go and get that information blocked in. Thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate you hanging around. If you're still here, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.